Florida Congressman Vern Buchanan won his seat 2 years ago by running as a savvy businessman. But now, his business practices are under attack.
I don't understand how this guy isn't in jail.
And charges of corruption leveled by former employees are threatening to blow up Buchanan's campaign and turn Florida's 13th congressional district from red to blue this November.
That's a complete smear campaign.
Vern Buchanan built a fortune selling cars. With a stake in more than a dozen dealerships, Buchanan amassed assets estimated at more than $100 million. His ability to generate money made him a top fundraiser for Florida's political elite, like former Governor Jeb Bush and current Senator Mel Martinez. Buchanan chaired the Florida Chamber of Commerce and was the co-chair of the Republican National Finance Committee. This combination of money and connections made Buchanan a natural choice to run for the House in South Florida's 13th congressional district.
To exercise my discretion.
The 13th is a high-profile seat. It once belonged to Katherine Harris, of Bush-Gore, Florida recount fame. Harris had given up the 13th to pursue her unsuccessful run for the Senate, and Vern Buchanan stepped into the void with help from some heavy hitters. President Bush, Vice President Cheney, and Mitt Romney all appeared on his behalf. Fittingly, the vote tally for Katherine Harris's former seat was hotly contested.
18,000 ballots cast on touchscreen voting machines failed to record a vote.
After a disputed recount, Buchanan was declared the winner by 369 votes. Buchanan spent $5.5 million of his own money in pursuit of his seat. It was the most expensive House race of the 2006 cycle. Now, just as Buchanan is heading into the home stretch of his 2008 re-election run, allegations of corruption are bubbling up in the local press, threatening to engulf his campaign.
Did he get illegal campaign contributions?
Yeah, I'm not,
This summer, several former dealership employees, most of them Republicans, have filed lawsuits against Buchanan, accusing him of everything from cooking the books to importing undocumented immigrants to work on his beachfront mansion. Carlo Bell was finance director at Buchanan's Venice Nissan Dodge dealership in 2005. Bell says that he and other employees were pressured to write personal checks to Buchanan's campaign, checks they would be reimbursed for with cash. In his lawsuit, Bell recalls a meeting headed by senior executive Don Caldwell.
He told us that he was going to reimburse us, pay us cash in other words. We would write a check for $1,000 and he would pay us $1,000 in cash. And I asked Don, I said, Don, this doesn't feel right. Is this legal? And he just said, basically what he said was, look, are you a team player or not? And, I took that as a threat. I took it as, either I was going to have to do this or I was probably going to be looking for a job. So eventually I said, yeah, Don, I guess I'm a team player, I didn't have any choice. So he handed me $1,000 in cash.
He personally did?
Oh, yeah, he had a big wad of cash in his hand. Yeah, and he passed out cash to 4 or 5 guys that I know of, and they all wrote checks for $1,000.
Don Caldwell vigorously denies Bell's account, saying he never reimbursed employees for donations to Buchanan's campaign. But Bell says everyone in that meeting wrote checks and got cash. Bell stands by his account and predicts his former colleagues will be subpoenaed and have to testify under oath.
And then the next thing they're going to do is they're going to have to provide their bank statements. And if they find out that they did in fact deposit cash at the same time they wrote the check, then they will suffer the consequences for lying under oath.
The infusion of personal checks came at a crucial time in the primary campaign. Buchanan was behind in the polls and eager to prove to party leaders that he could generate popular support. Records show between September 23rd and 30th, 2005, Buchanan's campaign received $110,000 from his business's employees and their families. At Sarasota Ford, then Buchanan's main base of operations, employees say they also felt the pressure to donate to the boss's campaign. Joe Keyser, formerly financial director of the dealership, was the first to blow the whistle on Buchanan in what has become a string of lawsuits. He says Buchanan personally pressured him for a $2,000 donation while at work.
Can you describe that?
Yeah, just came up to me, put his arm around me, said, you know, we're in a crunch for qualifying or what. And again, I don't know all the terminologies, but they had to raise X amount of money. I think to show the party that he had their earning ability, you know, and the backing and all, so they had to have X amount of dollars by a certain date.
Unlike Bell, Keyser was not repaid, but in exchange for the money, Keyser says Buchanan did have a treat to offer. A week's stay for free at his personal multi-million-dollar Colorado chalet.
Yeah, in exchange for the money, he offered me to stay at his place in Colorado.
Like Carlo Bell, Keyser says he donated the money because he didn't want to be fired. Eventually, though, Keyser did get fired, he says, for refusing to go along with illegal business practices. He got a job at another dealership, but then, on the same day that the press reported that Keyser had filed a lawsuit against Buchanan, he got fired again. Keyser agreed to talk with us, but he asked us to meet him at a hotel rather than at his home. Like Keyser, many of Buchanan's other former employees fear retribution for speaking out about his practices.
Because I definitely want the witness. I had a whistleblower protection thing going on, and if I hang out here by my own, they'll cream me. You know, Vern's going to come after people, I guarantee you.
One former employee, also preparing to sue Buchanan, would only speak with disguised features. Buchanan and his people claimed the payments were just a kind of sales bonus, known in the colorful language of car sales as a spiff. But our inside source says spiffs are paid to salesmen on the floor, not managers like Carlo Bell and Joe Keyser.
You know, and then they're trying to say, well, no, it was a spiff. Well, there are no spiffs given out in the car business to managers in cash. If it's a bonus, you throw it on their check at the end of the month when you do your settle-up bonus checks. You don't hand managers cash. You give spiffs to salesmen. That's it.
So far, 7 lawsuits have been filed in Florida, and at least 4 more are pending. They charge Representative Buchanan with fraud in his business and political dealings. All the whistleblowers who filed suit have consulted with this man, consumer advocate Dwayne Overholt, a former car salesman who's made it his life's work to expose auto fraud. He claims fraud was systematic at Buchanan's dealerships.
We know that they were producing fake documents a number of ways at the Buchanan dealerships. They had computer systems in-house. They had an outside entity that was producing fake tax returns. They were producing SSI letters, Social Security letters, fake discharge, bankruptcy discharge letters. Okay? All these are federal crimes.